Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. So as Bob did introduce me, my path to this role in my life has really come accidentally. I started out in consumer products and branding and marketing and business development, and then about 10 years or so ago, 11 years ago, I just had this craving, this inner craving to go deeper with me, with my spirituality, with my personal growth, and I went to ministry school. And it was not about learning religions, even though I did. I learned a lot about not only religions, but also all of the fabulous belief systems that exist. But it really was more about just deepening my own spirituality, my own connection to earth, to the spiritual world. And what started happening was I started getting opportunities to work in hospice. And so I started out at Doylestown Hospice just part-time, but realized I was very comfortable at having crucial conversations with families, that it didn't bother me. And anything, one thing led to another, and so here I am, and I work for the Visiting Nurse Association of Philadelphia. I started out there as a hospice chaplain, which is really just about supporting the psychosocial, spiritual parts of those who were either in the end of life part of their life, or the families and loved ones of those who were, getting closer to end of life. And then several years ago, my position shifted, and I really, since I love to do the education piece, it really shifted into my doing more education to doctors and to hospitals and facilities and groups like this, which just really honors me to be able to provide some information, because I think it's really important that we all know. I think education and understanding, knowledge is power. So I think that is all, is really important. So before I begin, I just want to do a little public service announcement, because 2020 is a census year. And it's really important that everybody participate in the census. Philadelphia is one of those towns or cities in Pennsylvania that really is an at-risk city. So it's estimated that it could be close to like 60 to 70% of households will not be counted because of a variety of reasons, right? Either there could be a language barrier, maybe someone doesn't like to have their information shared, it could be they just never get around to it, whatever the reasons are. No judgment on the reasons, but there are reasons. But there's a financial implication to all of the funding, that federal funding that Philadelphia gets if people don't participate, and it's in excess of a couple $1,000s per household when people don't participate. So share the news with your neighbors. It starts in April. That's my little PSA. So first I'm going to start with a couple definitions. Palliative care, let me back up. Hospice is a form of palliative care. So palliative care is this whole room here. I could just be hospice. And you don't have to be end stage of any kind of a disease to be on palliative care. Palliative care requires that you have a life-threatening illness, but typically people on palliative care with a life-threatening illness also want to pursue aggressive treatment. They just want to start to introduce comfort care into whatever it is that their protocol or their health regimen already is. And you can be on palliative care for years. And what that looks like is a nurse practitioner coming to the house from a palliative perspective and making recommendations to the doctor, where maybe you're not sleeping as well, maybe you're not able to navigate the stairs as well. And so it's just us being able to go into your home to give you care. And maybe the palliative nurse practitioner comes out, I don't know, once every couple of months, once every 3 months, until at some point, the disease treatment is no longer working, And then at that point, it may be appropriate to start talking about hospice care. So what happens is, as a disease treatment starts to decline, more palliative services can be offered. And then at some point, and in my experience with hospice, most people get to the point where they say, I'm done. I don't want to go back to the hospital. I don't want to be poked. I don't want to be prodded. I don't want to give blood. I don't want another round of chemo or radiation, or I'm tired of going to dialysis. I'm done. I'm done. Kind of like, your friend who, who had the 6 heart attacks. They're done. And that's the time that, that it's very easy to then just kind of gracefully have someone go into hospice. Now, everyone here pays for hospice now. It is a health benefit that you get to take advantage of whenever that time comes at the end of your life. Hospice is not a place, it is a philosophy of care. Hospice can be done anywhere. It can be done in your home, it can be done in a hospital, it can be done in a nursing home or a long-term care facility. It can be done in a specific hospice setting. So we have, the V&A has an inpatient unit over on Henry Avenue, the old Women's Medical Center, that is appropriate for specific hospice places. So hospice is not a place that you go to, it's a philosophy of care that's given to you. And there are 4 kinds of hospice, 4 kinds of service under hospice that's given to you. One is called routine, and that's what everyone typically gets, is a routine level of care. Which means that you have a nurse that comes out to the house, it means that you have social workers that come out to the house, you have a chaplain that can come out to the house. And I'll tell you, the chaplain part of it is not necessarily, it's not about religion at all. Sometimes it's just about having a crucial conversation, a deep conversation. So I had a conversation with a woman who had 5 children, and they converted one of the living room area into like a hospice room for her. Hospice provides the bed and all of the materials and the medications and everything. And we were talking, and she said, I mentioned something about her 5 children, and because every time I went there, they were in and out, and they were all really very loving around the situation. And I said something to her about her 5 children, and she said, "Oh no," she says, "I have 13 children. Most of them were either stillborn or died when they were very young," and she hadn't shared that with anybody, right? So I was just the right person at the right time for her to share something that was heavy on her heart, that she wanted to get out before she took her last breath. And so we were able to talk about each one. She told me their names, and it was just cathartic for her, right? 2 days later, she died. But that's maybe all she needed in this life, was just to kind of get that off her chest. So I say that because the chaplain is not about religion at all. If you want it to be about religion, it can be about religion, but oftentimes it's really just having a heart-to-heart conversation with somebody, So then the second kind is called continuous hospice, and that is rarely done. That is hospice in someone's home when someone is very symptomatic and they need for 24 or 48 hours one of our hospice nurses to physically be there. It is something that is very difficult for the family to watch. It is something, it's rarely ever done. Normally what families choose to do is the third kind. It's called GIP, or general inpatient. And we will say, how about we take mom to our inpatient unit? And we'll care for her there. Our nurses are there. You can come visit. You can stay overnight if you want. She has her, a single room, and it allows the family to have a little bit of a break, but also for us to be able to do whatever the kinds of medications or treatments or whatever it is, without the family having to watch their loved one suffer. So that's a third option. And then the last option for hospice care is called respite. And sometimes when someone is on hospice care, especially at home with the family might just need a break. Maybe you've got a wedding to go to. Maybe you've got, a birthday party or something, and you can't make arrangements for your loved one to be taken care of. Well, then they can come to our facility, or we can arrange for them to go to a facility for a few days, and that's respite care. So with that as background, end of life never brings out the best in anybody. It's scary, it's unknown, we don't talk about it. Oftentimes, we have regrets, but it never brings out the best in anybody. Especially sometimes when families come together around a loved one who's passing or who is closer to end of life, and those family members don't get along. And sometimes, even though we look like we are all adults, what happens is everyone goes back to their childhood sibling rivalry with things, right? In the newsletter that went out, I said that I would share the best last gifts around end of life. And there are two. The first one is, as someone who may get closer to end of life, is to make your wishes known. Make your wishes known ahead of time, as early as possible. This is your last will, your advanced directives. It's having crucial conversations. It's making your doctor know about your last wishes. It's about making your friends know. It's about making your family know. Maybe making your hospital know. Sharing what your last wishes are. Do you want to be a DNR, DNI, DNH? Which is do not resuscitate, do not intubate, do not hospitalize. And TV shows us oftentimes that when you get resuscitated, that someone just kind of goes boom, 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 and then they pop up, and they're like, oh, thank you, where are we going for dinner, right? And that's not what happens. That's not what happens. If you've got a life-threatening illness, the majority of those people end up with fractured ribs, maybe punctured lungs, on a breathing machine, and on life-sustaining treatment for the rest of their life. So it's really important to become knowledgeable about what the life-sustaining things are that you can do, and not take Law and Order's view on what something looks like in real life. And I don't say this to scare you. I just say to me, it's really important that people are educated and really knowledgeable about what are the consequences of the choices that you make. In California, they don't call it do not resuscitate, because do not resuscitate sounds like I'm holding something back from you. I'm not going to give you this, right? They call it allow a natural death, an AND, allow natural death, right? And that sounds like, oh yeah, that's what I want. And when I talk to people, when I talk to families, that's what I use. Do you want to allow a natural death? And some are like, yes. Some are like, no, I want everything possibly done for me. All right, well, that's your wish, right? That's what gets honored. But it's important to make those wishes known. Sometimes there's a financial reason, that you really want to make your wishes known. You want everyone to know, what's happening, how it's happening, where it's happening. The second wish, the second last gift that can be given is the one that we're going to talk about a little bit more, because there are areas of ethical contemplation around this one. The second one is to honor the wishes of your loved one. Not to make any decisions for your loved one, just to honor what it is that they want. Now you think about that. Your loved one went through all of the process of getting their affairs in order and saying, this is what I want when my time comes. And really all you have to do is honor those wishes. That's the last gift that you can give to someone at end of life, is to honor those wishes. And it sounds, when we're not in the emotion of it, and we're not in the stress or the fatigue of that, it sounds very simple. Of course I'm going to honor that. Of course I'm going to, why wouldn't I? Well, what if the medical or the durable power of attorney doesn't really want mom to die? So when you have the power of attorney comes into place when someone is no longer able to make decisions for them. So if there's somehow, they have, maybe they have dementia, or maybe they're in weak capacity, or they have given someone the right to make these decisions for them. And when you do that, it's important to choose the correct person who's going to actually honor your wishes. Now, I realize this is being taped, so you'd have to cut out this part that I'm going to say before my sister would see it. But I know my sister's a nurse practitioner. She gets all of this. Initially, I had her as my nurse practitioner until two events happened. My father died, and her best friend died. And when I saw how she behaved in that process, I thought, no way, no way. She was in the emotion of it and was not able to step back and see things for the way they were, right? So I do not want her as my medical power of attorney. I don't want her ever second guessing what I've decided I want at the end of my life. So it's really important who it is that you choose. Maybe it's not a spouse. Maybe that's too much of a burden on them. Maybe it's not one of your kids. Maybe it's a niece or a nephew or an in-law. Some of the common issues that I have found in hospice for not wanting someone to die, there can be the emotion part of it. That certainly was true for my sister. A lot of guilt. I didn't get to spend enough time with Dad. Maybe if we kept him alive a little bit longer, maybe if we did this, maybe, right? And then and I'll tell you, it's much harder if you start to do life-sustaining treatments to then have to withdraw that than it is to never start it at all. And again, we're having this conversation outside the emotion of having someone we love in the situation, right? Sometimes financial. And here, it's sometimes that person is the one who brings in the Social Security check that helps to sustain the family living where they're living. And so there's a financial reason to keep mom or dad or my brother or someone alive. And sometimes there's family pressure. I'm going to tell you about Mrs. Nibbs. Name has changed. 94-year-old woman, dementia, not end stage, but dementia. And she has congestive heart failure and was recently diagnosed with renal failure. Son was a power of attorney, knew what the mom wanted. He was kind of in agreement. He's sad that this is going to happen. He's also a little bit emotional because 30 years ago, mom came back from cancer. So is mom going to rally around again this time, 34 years later? She's got a lot of comorbidities, a lot of things going on. The brother says, and who's not, and this happens, the people who are not involved in the daily care, I call them Mighty Mouse. Here I come to save the day, right? The ones who are not involved are the ones that come in at the last minute and want their opinion heard, want their way to be done, and it's just the way it is. The person who's been there every step of the way gets questioned. So the brother, or the other son of this woman, who lives in another part of the country, when he heard renal, said, could she get dialysis? Making the brother who is there all the time in power of attorney question, should we do this, right? So he's no longer focused on mom's wishes. Now he's feeling family pressure, and am I not doing enough to help keep mom alive, right? Mom's in a wheelchair. She has minimal quality of life. She's really not eating a whole lot anymore. And as someone in hospice, I can see, okay, this is a time to just honor mom and honor her wishes and be with her because she is in a downward trajectory, right? So we'll get back to her in a second, because the second area of ethical contemplation, so the first one really is, what if the family member or the medical POA doesn't want this person to pass? The second one is, what if there's a financial benefit to the healthcare system to keep someone alive? So I go back to the story about Mrs. Nibbs. The son takes her to a nephrologist, asks about dialysis, and look, sometimes, sometimes I think of some of the specialists, medical specialists, it's like they're a hammer and everything looks like a nail. And they want to cure. They want to help, they want to cure. That's what they went to school for. They want to cure, they want to cure. They haven't gone to school to have these kinds of crucial conversations. The nephrologist says, yes, we can do dialysis on mom. Writes the order for dialysis. Well, the patient died 2 days later, right? Her body wasn't able. Her body wasn't able to do that. But is there a financial, I heard on NPR a couple days ago, there was a segment about large healthcare systems buying out rural hospitals. I don't know if any of you caught it, but it was really interesting because there was a doctor on there from a rural hospital that said, and initially it was wonderful because we got this fabulous equipment in. But then the equipment had to be paid for. And so the big hospital system was saying, well, how come you didn't order this particular treatment with this with this piece of equipment for your patient? And the doctor said, well, they didn't need it. He's like, yeah, but we got to pay for that, right? So it's, to me, it's you enter into this ethical area of, what is right, what is good. So in medical care, there's two things they think of. They think of beneficence, which is to do good, and then non-malfeasance, which is don't do bad. And to me, the don't do bad piece of it is, what is it that the patient wants? What is it that your loved one wants? What are in the advanced directives, right? That goes back to the importance of the advanced directives and bringing these advanced directives with you wherever you go. Let every doctor know what it is that you want. If you don't have all of your advanced directives online, there is a document you can get called 5 Wishes. And then you can just have it notarized. And the 5 wishes, and it goes into a whole bunch of other things, like what kind of music would you like having played in your room if you become, non-conscious. So, I'm coming up on the end of my time here. So I wanted to, I realize that there's more than just these 2 areas of ethical contemplation in terms of doing what is right for someone else when they've made it known. As hard as it is, which sometimes I think is great when you've got a good hospice organization because you've got access to a social worker and a chaplain, and you've got people who are going to help you with that, the psychosocial piece of that, the family pressure. You've got people who are willing to talk to other family members, who are willing to do family meetings. And then there's also bereavement support that happens after, because you never know what you're going to feel guilty or remorse about. Or maybe you feel a sense of relief that someone's gone, and you feel guilty about that sense of relief that someone is gone, right? So we all can make informed choices, and I just hope that today just kind of, sparked a little creativity in your mind about the ways that end of life and making good and ethical decisions are really important. Knowledge is power, especially at end of life, especially when you consider what are the motives behind any decision being made, whether it's a medical professional or whether it's a family member. What are the motivations behind it? Is it patient-centered? Is it what's best for your loved one? And when you can come back to that question all the time, is it mom-centered? Is this what dad wants? Is this what my sister wants? Is this what my child wants? One child of mine is like, yeah, let me go. The other child is like, no, you keep me alive as long as I can stay alive. They might come up with a new way of curing whatever I have, right? It's really important to kind of have these discussions. And and know that your power of attorney is going to put your needs and your wants and your desires first. Okay? And then just lastly, talk with your doctor. This is, I don't know, have you guys seen the L'Oreal commercials, like for hair care and stuff, and you can buy their stuff in the supermarket. It's a little bit more expensive on the shelf than maybe some of the other brands, but there's a commercial for L'Oreal, and at the end, the way they justify the greater expense of their products is because you're worth it, right? Well, be your own L'Oreal commercials because you are worth it and your loved ones are worth it. So just continue to stay informed and ask the good questions, okay? Thank you for letting me talk today. I appreciate that.